Всем привет, это Nadia. Hey everyone, this is Nadia. Thank you for joining me for this week's Winedown Wednesday. And today we're going to be going over client consultations. Consultations can be a valuable asset to your grooming business, whatever form it may take, whether you're based out of a salon, vet clinic, boarding facility, in-home salon, mobile, or house call. There are ways that you can pretty easily implement consultations into your business if you haven't already. And these can especially be beneficial for potential new clients who may be reaching out to you for the first time, as it offers an opportunity for you to get any relevant medical history, any relevant grooming history, or notes that they may have received from previous groomers that they've worked with. And implementing consultations can also give you an opportunity to gauge whether this client would even be the right fit for you and your business. So personally, I utilize 3 different forms of consultations within my house call business. And these 3 forms of consultations are what we're going to be going over today. So we're going to be going over intake forms, phone consultations, and in-person consultations. And I utilize all 3 because I do find that it helps streamline client communication. It covers any questions a potential new client might have for me, my services, and how my business operates. And it also gives me a valuable opportunity to assess whether or not this client would be the right fit for me and my business, as well as giving them the opportunity to see if I'm the right stylist for them and their pet. When it comes to house call or mobile, I find consultations to be invaluable when it comes to personal safety. After all, we are meeting clients either in front of their home or directly in their home. And when it comes to house call, you are actually providing professional grooming services within the client's home. So being able to vet new clientele can be invaluable when it comes to maintaining your personal safety and boundaries. And so we're going to be going over, again, the different kinds of consultations, what benefits they can offer, and how you can implement them into your unique business structure. So first up, we're going to be going over intake forms. And this is something that many stylists already utilize within their business. Again, whether you are an employee or you own your own business, this is something that, depending on the structure of your business or place of employment, can be pretty easy to implement. So you can pretty easily set an intake form up using a service like Jotform or Google Forms. And if you already use grooming software, they may already include a pre-made intake form as a part of that service. And usually that's something you can go ahead and customize. You can make it as simple or detailed as you'd like. If you prefer to keep it simple, some basics you would want to include are contact and emergency contact information of the client, information on their pet's vet and emergency vet hospital, any relevant medical conditions, allergies, injuries, previous surgeries that their pet may have had, as well as any known behavioral issues, whether it relates or is outside of grooming, as well as previous grooming history. So that could be anything, again, from behavior or notes or comments that they've had from previous groomers that they've worked with, or even something like a style that they prefer. And you can always include an option for the client to submit photos of their pet in an intake form. And if your business offers any specialized services, such as skin and coat care, like if you are a certified pet esthetician, and that's something you like to highlight about your business, you can always include specific questions about that in your intake form, just in case this client may be looking for or may benefit from those services. Same as if you were to specialize in behavior modification or rehabilitation. You can always customize your intake form to include specific questions and really make it suitable for your unique business structure. And so usually once I have received an intake form, I will move on to scheduling a phone consultation. And phone consultations do not have to be very long at all. So usually during a phone consultation, I am going over the client's intake form and kind of confirming and clarifying some of the answers that they've submitted. So if I have any specific questions, if they've mentioned that their pet has a specific medical condition or they had a previous injury or surgery, this is when I would inquire further and get some more details. Phone consultations are also an opportunity to clarify pricing and scheduling with potential new clients, as oftentimes, that will be one of the main questions that they have is how much is it going to be? How often do I need to book? That kind of thing. And depending on your business, personally, I maintain clients on a 4-week schedule. Your business may have a 4 to 6 week schedule. You may not have any requirements at all. But this is when you can really customize it to suit the needs of your individual business. And again, phone consultations do not have to be very long. I usually keep them between 10 and 15 minutes because the main priority is going over the intake form and kind of getting a better feel for this client. And it also allows them, again, to ask any questions they have for me, whether it's pricing, scheduling, a specific service, qualifications, experience, things like that. And even if you prefer not to talk over the phone, phone consultations can prove to be very beneficial in streamlining client communication and preventing any miscommunication, especially when it comes to things like pricing or scheduling. And this is, again, usually where I'm gauging a better feel for this client. You can usually gather quite a bit of information off of a brief phone call. So this is where I would kind of decide whether I want to pursue booking an in-person consultation, or if I think that my services might not be exactly what they're looking for, or if they're not exactly the right client for me, then at this point I could instead refer them out elsewhere. And moving on, we're going to go into in-person consultations. And I find that an in-person consultation can be pretty easily incorporated into whatever business structure you may have. I've worked in numerous different salon settings from very low volume up to high volume, and a consultation was something that they all pretty much had in common, and the business was able to customize it so that it still worked for the needs of that business, even if it was a very high volume salon. So whether you're based in a low or high volume salon, vet clinic, boarding facility, in-home salon, mobile unit, or house call, there are ways that you can implement in-person consultations and make them work for your business. One way you can do that is marketing an in-person consultation as a meet and treat, where you and the client basically just have a brief conversation. If they have any remaining questions for you, if you're working out of a salon and they have questions on the salon itself, this is the time where they can kind of get a feel for the space. Obviously, you are meeting them and their pet for the first time. So this is where you could actually introduce yourself to their pet. If they don't have any food restrictions, you can give out some treats. If they're very toy motivated, maybe you can, play with them a little bit, toss a ball around. It's very customizable as to what works for you and your business. And it also gives you an opportunity to further assess whether you and the client are the right fit for each other. And I find in-person consultations or a meet and treat to be very valuable in introducing yourself to their pet outside of a grooming setting. So usually it's just going to be a brief conversation, introducing yourself, getting a feel for them, introducing yourself to their pet, assessing their overall condition, coat condition, their temperament, things like that. And when it comes to house call, an in-person consultation is where I would usually determine which setup or which room in their house would be a optimal setup for my equipment and my tools. This is where I would assess what the bathing setup would look like, whether it's a kitchen sink or a walk-in shower, a utility sink, things like that. And again, I find the main benefits of in-person consultations to be getting a kind of being able to further assess the client and whether you guys are the right fit for each other, and introducing yourself to the pet in a neutral setting. Sometimes if I am taking on a new behavior case as a potential new client, I might bring a few tools and equipment with me, again, since I'm house call, for an in-person consultation. And towards the end of it, I may just pop them up on the grooming table and kind of see how they are with something like nail trimmers, clippers, brushes, combs, things like that. And I usually only keep that to about 3 to 5 minutes. The main goal isn't really to provide any grooming services. It's more so to, again, assess whether this client would be the right fit for you, and to introduce yourself to their pet in a more neutral and pleasant setting. And at this point, if you have already gone into an intake form, you've already done a phone consultation, you've already done an in-person consultation, and everything is going pretty good, you feel comfortable taking on this person as a client, you can go ahead and start booking services. Or if at any point you felt uncomfortable, or you felt like they weren't really the right fit for you and your business, or maybe you didn't offer quite what they were looking for, then you could always refer them out. And this is where having a network of local pet professionals can be beneficial, because if it's a case of you not being quite the right fit for what they were looking for, but you have a colleague who would be, you can always refer them out that way. Or if in the event that this client made you feel uncomfortable or was disrespectful, you can always go ahead and warn your local pet professionals within your network about the situation and kind of let everyone know what happened, just so that everyone can stay more well-informed and aware that this is a potentially problematic client. And a common question when it comes to consultations would be pricing. So, what do I charge? Do I charge at all? And this is going to depend entirely on what works for you and your business. So when it comes to an intake form and a phone consultation, those are complimentary for my business. And when it comes to an in-person consultation, again, as I'm house call, I do charge a traveling fee. But this would completely depend on the needs of your business. So if you are in a lower volume salon, where you have a bit more time in your schedule to book in consultations. You may decide that a complimentary consultation or even a lower cost deposit type of consultation works best for your business. If you are mobile or house call, you may feel that a complimentary consultation isn't quite the right fit for you and may choose to instead charge a traveling fee or even a deposit. And on the one hand, having complimentary or lower cost consultations can be more accessible. However, on the other hand, it may mean that certain people are not going to follow through with showing up. So whatever you decide, the main thing that matters is that it works for you and your business. And that is pretty much it for today. So just to wrap up, we covered 3 different types of consultations, including intake forms, phone consultations, in-person consultations, how they work, and their benefits. We also covered how you can implement consultations into your unique business structure and how to price them appropriately to benefit your needs and schedule. So thanks for hanging out with me for this week's Winedown. We look forward to chatting with you guys next week with one of our other board members. I'll see you guys next time.